cause your car insurance prices to go up, unfortunately. A lot of people in the new year seeing all their bills and looking at what they have to pay for the year, trying to plan everything out and seeing those increases. I know it kind of made me feel a little yucky, but there are reasons why we're seeing those increases. So I actually sat down with Kimberly Adams. She's with Remy Gray Private Insurance. She broke down why we're seeing those increases. She said it's not just because we're trying to take your money, there's reasons for it. Really, everything is just so much more expensive now. And she gave some tips on how you can actually get the best bang for your buck.
Yeah, I think the big question for people, especially if you have a good driving record, if you haven't
You're
been
like,
in
why
any
am I
crashes,
seeing
like,
these increases?
right, why am I being punished? But she kind of breaks down why exactly that is. And it's not just happening to the select few, it's happening to
It's really
everybody.
across the country. So take a listen here.
Can you just tell me a little bit, answer the question here? I think there's probably a lot of different parts to this, but a lot of people are talking about how they're seeing their insurance prices, especially when it comes to their auto insurance, spike here recently, and especially over the past couple of years. So what is the reason for that?
Yeah, great question. Definitely one that we face on a daily basis is first, I'd like to mention, because of the widespread increased cost of auto insurance premiums, a lot of outside firms, including Trusted Choice, have done surveys across large American cross sections. And what they have found is over a third of American households are completely unaware that auto insurance premiums are heavily impacted by external factors like rising inflation, the extreme claim frequency that we've seen in the last year, and also the inflated cost of a claim. Cars have become more feature rich, right? They have more technology and safety features, and so the average fender bender costs so much more because of cameras and sensors, and of course, just body shop supply chain disruptions and the cost of labor. And then we would talk about natural disasters and then inflated legal fees and medical costs. Those are all the core impacts or the core driving factors to our escalated auto insurance premiums in today's marketplace.
I think a lot of times it's easy for people to think, hey, I didn't get in any crashes this past year. I didn't get a ticket. So why am I seeing these increases? But like you mentioned, it isn't just so much about your driving record, your driving history. I mean, that does play a role if you did do something, but a lot of times it's those exterior factors.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're always more than welcome to sit on one of those calls because it really there's some art and science to it. Is right. It's an emotional conversation. Hey, I understand that gas and food is more expensive, but when we start talking about insurance, first of all, no one wants to pay for their insurance premiums until we have a claim, and we're glad that we have the coverage. But helping people realize that, hey, unfortunately, because of these external factors, insurance companies have had to increase premiums to be able to pay out for claims, especially in this marketplace when we're just seeing a lot more claims and they just cost so much more. If I could give you a quick example, post-COVID, when we had labor shortages, insurance companies were, where we would normally see a fender bender take 7 to 10 days to resolve, right? From, hey, this incident occurred to now I'm being inspected and repaired at the body shop. Those claims were taking as long as 30 days or more. So insurance companies were also spending more in the cost of rental cars. If you also recall, we had a car shortage, which also drove up the cost of even a used vehicle. And so when we're talking to families who have not had any claims, we have to remind them that unfortunately it is a tough market and those factors are impacting even their individual premiums. The silver lining is that there are actions that you can take to help mitigate those rising costs.
Would you give us some examples of those actions that people could take to kind of, like you mentioned, help to mitigate that?
Yeah, absolutely. The big one I would say is starting out, again, I've mentioned Trusted Choice, is taking advantage of, these consumer advocate platforms that connect the general public with vetted insurance professionals, independent insurance agents such as myself. When we subscribe to Trusted Choice, or what's known as the Big I, that is the National Insurance Association, we subscribe to, more training, overarching guidelines that help us deliver a better customer experience. And the biggest top two reasons a customer would go to an independent agent is choice. One, independent agents, we have at our fingertips multiple carriers that we represent, so we can quickly get multiple alternative solutions for them. And then education, right? Our job as an independent agent is we don't work for any of those carriers. We represent both sides, and our job is to truly be an advisor, an educator, and really listen to someone's unique insurance needs to help get them to the right solutions. To me, what we say in our practice is winning is having the most coverage, the best coverage at the most competitive price. And to get there, I would say shopping around and being open to alternative deductibles, right? Some people have carried $250 deductibles since they started driving, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago. And in this marketplace, it really doesn't make sense to have such low deductibles for most people. So, bumping up a deductible would be a way to hedge against those costs. The other opportunity is to take advantage of the safe driver programs that most auto insurance carriers are offering. So that could be plugging in a device or downloading an app, and for 90 days, your driving habits are monitored to then yield out, information about your driving habits, but also in most cases do hedge against those insurance premiums, anywhere from 10 as high as 30% off someone's annual premium. A lot of families are resistant to what we call telematic devices, but long term, they can really make a big dent in a family's cost of insurance.
Quick question. So here in Tucson, we're seeing our crashes on our roads, pedestrian crashes, also just crashes in general, spike. Each year, it seems like there's even more. Does that play a role, like where you live and the amount of crashes that are on your streets? Do you guys kind of take any, do you watch out for that, or charge more because you're expecting that to happen, or does that not really play a part?
Yeah, I mean, that we're definitely diving into some, technical insurance pricing. And I would say your local community and the claims experience, right? How often and how severe the claims are in the Tucson market 100% impact what the average Tucson local would pay for car insurance. I read a study that just in the last year, we had, over 7,500 pedestrian fatalities, which is the most we've had in a single year since like the 1980s. And so, we have more drivers on the road in Arizona in general, right? We've seen a spike in population. So now we have more drivers in a geographic area that insurance carriers were not originally prepared for. That's increased claims in that like Tucson. And so they've had to adjust pricing to be able to pay out those claims. And I don't think anyone anticipated the mass migration and then some of the unintended consequence to that, right? Hey, we have far more incidences of car, fender benders or major, motor vehicle events around Tucson because of a more densely populated community.
Anything else that you want to add or mention that we didn't talk about already?
Yeah, I think it's just important to remember, again, in addition to inflation, supply chain issues, we have national disasters, and we also have what are called nuclear legal costs coming to the insurance marketplace. So the average claim, if someone seeks out legal counsel, we're seeing that those costs, including medical costs that have also risen, also impacting the everyday consumer auto premium. Again, I think the big choice is, the big opportunity for anyone that's paying for car insurance is to evaluate the quality of the relationship that they have with their independent agent or their agent in general, and really assess one, are they getting great insurance counsel, or is their agent, reluctant or eager to help do, a policy review to look at, coverages, one, to make sure that they're still relevant for that person's needs. Insurance it should be a living, breathing policy, right? As our lives evolve, so should our coverages. And sometimes it's one of those things that we set it and forget it as people, and we don't really, we don't enjoy talking insurance, and so people often just put off those conversations until, the cost is unbearable. And I think it's just a great convergence in this marketplace for consumers and independent agents to think about the value of those conversations and really educate and find better solutions for, the individuals that we as agents serve.